Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Wow. How's that for a quote? It's from Alan Miltz, by the way. I'm not sure I completely buy into the idea that revenue is vanity, but it does make the rhyme work, and it's a good lead in to today's episode. We're talking about the one thing that will actually determine whether your business survives and thrives or becomes another statistic, and that's profit. Not revenue, not followers, not subscribers, profit. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a month where your revenue looked amazing on paper, but when you checked your bank account, you were scratching your head wondering where all that money went? I hear that from my students all the time. And if you're nodding right now, you're in the right place. When I first started my online business, I was obsessed with revenue. I remember celebrating one of my first big milestones like I'd won the lottery. I treated myself to a fancy dinner, bought some new AV equipment, and even splurged on an expensive course that I'd been eyeing. But when I sat down to pay my quarterly taxes, I had a complete panic attack. I had really great sales that quarter, but I had almost nothing left. My expenses were way too high, from software subscriptions to advertising costs and that high-ticket course. My actual profit was pitiful. That's when I discovered the Profit First method by Mike Michalowicz, and it completely transformed how I approach my business. I don't like the phrase completely transformed because I think it's overused, but in this case, it really is accurate. Instead of focusing on revenue and then paying expenses, leaving profit as an afterthought, I flipped things around. Now I take my profit first, then figure out how to run my business on what's left. And let me tell you, when profit becomes your priority instead of just a hope, everything changes. As a solopreneur running my online business from home, implementing this profit-focused mindset has allowed me to create true financial freedom, not just the illusion of success. And today I'm going to share with you why you should do the same. So let's drill down on what profit actually is, because I find that a lot of business owners get confused about this. Profit isn't just about making money. It's what's left after you subtract all your expenses from your revenue. Revenue is all the money coming into your business. That's that big, exciting number you see when sales are running in. But profit, that's the money that you actually get to keep or reinvest. That's the real metric of success. Think about it this way. If you're selling a $500 course, but you spend $450 on ads and software to make that sale, your profit is only $50. Is that worth your time and energy? Are you thinking about your goals in terms of revenue or profit? Would you rather have a business that makes $200,000 in revenue but only $20,000 in profit, or one that makes $100,000 in revenue with $60,000 in profit? The answer's obvious when you look at it that way, right? When you focus on profit, you're setting yourself up for sustainability. It isn't just about making money now, it's about building a business that can support you for the long term. I discovered this sustainability principle while researching a case study for a course that I was taking. I interviewed two business owners in the same niche. They were both selling online fitness programs. The first one proudly shared her impressive stats. She had 100,000 Instagram followers, constant features in major publications, and six-figure launches. But when we spoke off the record, she admitted she was barely keeping her head above water financially. Her high-end photo shoots, constant advertising, and premium tools were eating up almost all of her revenue. Meanwhile, the second business owner had a fraction of the audience, but ran a lean operation with carefully selected expenses tied directly to profit generation. She had systems that let her work just 25 hours a week, and took a full month off every summer. The difference wasn't their knowledge or even much about their offers. It was their relationship with profit. The second owner tracked her profit margin religiously, and she wouldn't approve any expense until she could clearly see how it would maintain or improve her profit margin. That conversation had a real impact on my perspective. Focusing on profit also opens up growth opportunities. When you have actual cash in the bank, not just impressive revenue numbers, you can reinvest your funds strategically. You can take that online course you've been eyeing. You can hire that amazing VA who will free up your time, or you can finally upgrade your course platform to one with more bells and whistles. It also gives you security. Remember when the pandemic hit and so many businesses had to shut down within weeks because they had no cash reserves? The businesses that survived were the ones that had been focusing on profit all along. They had that financial cushion that got them through that difficult time. And let's not forget the personal satisfaction. There's nothing quite like checking your bank account and seeing actual money there, not just money that's going to immediately go back out to pay expenses. That feeling of building real wealth rather than just moving money around, that's priceless. And it's what lets you create the lifestyle that you probably started your business for in the first place. Now, there are some myths about profit that I want to address today. The first big one is that focusing on profit means you're greedy. That's a common one in today's environment where corporate greed is a real issue. And those of us who came out of the corporate world don't want to bring that energy into our own businesses. But here's the truth. Profit doesn't compete with purpose, it enables it. Think about it. When your business is profitable, you can donate more to causes that you care about. You can create scholarship spots in your programs. You can pay your team better wages. You can take time off to volunteer. Profit gives you the freedom to make the impact that you want to make. The second myth is that revenue is more important than profit. I see this one all the time on social media. I had a 6-figure launch. I hit 7 figures this year. But those numbers don't mean anything if your expenses ate up most of that revenue. I saw this play out in real time at a business conference that I attended a few years ago. During a panel discussion, one speaker was introduced as the founder of a 7-figure agency. Everyone was in awe as she talked about her fancy office space, her team of 15 people, and how she worked with celebrity clients. She definitely looked the part, and she had this sort of aura of success. But there was another panel member who was much less flashy. She ran what she called a boring email marketing business that helped e-commerce brands. No fancy title, no big claims about revenue. But when someone asked about profitability during the Q&A, the 7-figure agency owner awkwardly admitted that she was actually in debt and she hadn't paid herself a real salary in 18 months because she was consistently reinvesting in growth. The email marketing specialist, on the other hand, shared that she'd maintained a 65% profit margin for 3 years straight, had zero debt, and had just paid cash for her dream house. This reminded me so much of the book, The Millionaire Next Door. I read this book maybe 20 years ago, and it had a huge impact on me. It talks about how most real millionaires aren't the ones with luxury cars and mansions. They're the unassuming business owners who live well below their means and quietly build wealth. That moment at the conference was like seeing those principles play out in the online business world, where we often get distracted by the flashy influencer lifestyle rather than focusing on actual financial freedom. It was such a perfect illustration of the revenue versus profit reality. One business looked impressive on paper and social media, but was actually struggling, while the other quietly built wealth without the vanity metrics. So let's talk about how to actually increase your profit. This is where we get into the actionable strategies that I love so much. First, effective planning is crucial. You need to prioritize tasks that directly contribute to profit. Ask yourself, is this activity going to lead to more profit, or am I just being busy? I use a scorecard that's part of my 90-day plan, and it's weighted more toward profit-generating activities. I talk more about my scorecard system in the 90-day planning bootcamp, and I'll drop a link to that in the show notes. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, I'll include links to all the books that I've mentioned as well. So to give you some examples, in my business, creating new content for my membership, nurturing my email list, and creating core content are my highest leverage activities. Social media, not so much. So I spend minimal time there, really only repurposing my core content pieces. And I focus on what actually moves the needle. Next, let's talk about productivity. You know I'm a productivity junkie. Time management is directly related to productivity because your time is your most valuable asset. I use time blocking religiously to ensure that I'm focusing on profit-generating activities during the hours that I have available for work. I also track my time every day to make sure that what I say I'm going to do in my time blocking schedule actually gets done. I also batch similar tasks together. For instance, I record all of my podcast episodes for the month in one day. In fact, I'm batching podcast episodes today. This is the first of 4 episodes that I'm recording. I also write all my emails for the week in one sitting. This dramatically increases my efficiency and leaves more time for other high-profit activities. Content marketing is another powerful profit strategy. But here's the key. Create value-driven content that directly attracts your ideal clients. Don't just create content for the sake of it. Every blog post, every podcast episode, every email should have a clear path to one of your offers. And my direct advice to you, focus on quality over quantity in your offers. I see so many business owners who are creating new products constantly, thinking that more offers means more money. But what usually happens is that they spread themselves too thin and they don't market any of their products effectively. Now, obviously, this depends on your business model, but if you don't have a solid system for marketing your products, I would encourage you to focus there before creating new offers. In my business, I have just one core offer, my membership. I occasionally release courses from the membership as standalone offers, but I no longer create one-off products. I experimented last year with a second low-cost membership, but I decided that it was taking up too much of my time, so I canceled it. So to wrap this up, focusing on profit isn't just about making money. It's about building a sustainable business that supports the life you want to live. Here are some things to remember. 1, know your numbers. Track your revenue and your expenses so that you understand your profit. 2, question every expense. Ask if it's really necessary or if it's just a nice to have. 3, focus on high leverage activities that directly impact your bottom line. 4, quality over quantity. This applies to offers, content, everything. And 5, run lean. Automate what you can, delegate only what's necessary. Okay, I want you to grab a notebook right now and write down 3 expenses that you could cut from your business this week and 3 high leverage activities that you could focus on instead. This simple exercise will help you move toward more profitability. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Next week, we'll be talking about strategies to help you go from scattered to focused. You won't want to miss it. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. It helps other business owners just like you find this free content. You can also find me on Instagram at Tonia Kendrick. And be sure to head over to toniakendrick.com/52 to check out the show notes. You'll find links to all the resources mentioned today.